So, thank you so much to everyone that is here live and welcome to the Launch Lab. Today, we're talking about how to set up your 2025 and have a six-figure year, starting with a record-breaking January launch. So today it is going to be it's going to be a masterclass slash webinar, but there is going to be moments that we're going to be talking through things and I'll be hitting pause to ask you questions. For those that are asking, who are watching the replay, you guys can pop questions into that Facebook group anytime throughout this week and I'm more than happy to answer them. We also have a bonus Q&A session tomorrow that is at 4 p.m. Australian Standard Eastern Time, which is Queensland time. If you are in the UK, somewhere in Europe, this will be your morning time. So you guys can watch this replay, come along and ask your questions there. So getting straight into it, I would love for those who are here live, I would love for you to get in the chat and introduce yourself. And I'd love to really just know your experience with launching as well. So if you want to pop your name, where you're from, your niche. So if you're already online, you have a niche that you work in, the year you started your online business. So I'd love to know, is it something that's new to you? Have you been doing it for a while? And your experience with launching. So have you never launched before and you're really wanting to learn about it? Have you launched before and maybe it didn't go so well and you want to learn how to do it better? Or see, you're an experienced launcher and here to just always improve on that as well. All right, so I see you guys typing. I'll give it a second. Zara, yes, Zara is in the IVS and SIVO space. Started in 2018 as a side job, started focusing on more since last October, so about 12 months now. One launched on October 10th. How did that launch go, Zara?
Would you like me to unmute myself?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sure. To be honest, it went better than I expected. I didn't think anyone would show up because my Instagram follower just very, very small. Like I only have 240 something followers. 46 people registered, 26 people showed up live, and 4 people registered for the program. So
that's good.
It felt good. It was very stressful though. And I think I had a lot of things left for the last minute thing to figure out, and I had it on Zoom, and it was hard. I'm hoping that I can have a launch next year with like more organized, more structure. That it would be worth all that effort because it was honestly like many hours just for that little presentation and getting the word out and all of that.
Yes, it definitely, when you first do your launches, it can take a lot of time. And I think with time and practice, that gets a lot quicker. I think what your story really shows is how even a small audience, you can still have success, right? Like to bring in 4 clients through a launch with a small audience, or to get 46 people to register, that's what, a quarter of your audience. If I had a quarter of my audience registering, like that would be insane. But that just shows how you can have a hot audience with a small audience. So why I always say, like, don't let the number of your audience actually hold you back from advertising as if you've got a big audience, because it's still very possible. But yes, we'll go through how to make that a quicker and easier process as well. All right, let me go back to sharing. All right, so today you're in the right place if you are feeling like you're in a limbo with your community. So you get likes, comments, you may get people saving, but it's not really translating into the volume of client inquiries you would like. AKA, we call this the follower friend zone. So people are respecting you as a friend, but they're not necessarily seeing you as an authority and someone that they trust in. You are also in the right place today if you constantly feel like you toe the line between content burnout and getting enough clients to keep your head above the water. So you know that you're ready for more, but you're feeling stuck with where you are. And you also want to be able to scale in an ethical way. You know that this is more than just the money. You want to be able to transform people's lives and create time and financial freedom for yourself, for your friend, for your family as well. So I want you to imagine this with me. Imagine it 6 months from now. You're consistently hitting those 5-figure months. Content creation feels fun and effortless, and your calendar has space for both business and personal priorities. You reach a Friday, you're no longer stressed. You can log in, can do a couple of emails, and then log out for the weekend. This is the reality of how I run my business. This is a sample of this is my week next week. I see clients 1 to 2 days per week. They still get amazing results. I'm there to support them every single week, and I'm still able to consistently hit 20K months. And I'm not burnt out with back-to-back calls, or I've got space in there to run the business and to create content and do all the things. So this is what I want to be able to teach you today as well. Now, I do have a couple of bonuses for coming along today. So there is a giveaway. I'm giving away a one-on-one intensive. So this is an hour with me where we'll deep dive into your business, your content plan, and I provide you a strategy to move forward. We're also going to be doing a little homework task at the end. So there, I'll run you through how that works. Basically, the homework task, you'll be able to pop it in the Facebook page, and I'll be able to give you some feedback on that. That one will need to be submitted by 4 p.m. tomorrow before the next Q&A call, so I can give you feedback. I'll explain that at the end. I'm also going to be talking about Scale the Mastermind and giving away some program bonuses for that as well. So a little bit about my personal business journey. So I personally started working as a dietitian back in 2016, and I worked in private practice for a number of years. In 2020, in the middle of COVID, I left private practice feeling really burnt out. I was feeling this before COVID, but I was done. I was ready to leave the industry. I felt like I never really found that passion in this work. I didn't work with dream clients. I was kind of like, what's the fuss about? The money was not that great, and I was not enjoying it. And then I had a couple of months off and I decided to start my own online business. At the same time, I was co-coaching for another dietitian who had an online business. She was charging between $3,000 and $5,000 for a 12-week program. And I was just like blown away by that. I was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I make this happen? So while starting my own online business, I was working along her just part-time, seeing a handful of clients. And it gave me more of that inspiration. And then in my first year, I was able to scale fairly quickly and hit my first 10K month. In my second year, by 2022, I was co-coaching for another business mentor for a few months. I ended up leaving that because I wasn't really enjoying how she had things set out. And I also knew that I wanted to go into business mentoring in the future, so I didn't want to put any barriers there. In 2022, I scaled into my first 20K months through launching. And then come 2024, I started to hit consistent 20K months every single month, while also working with more aligned clients. So people that wanted to be there, people that I loved working with, 1 to 2 days per week, and launched this second business coaching business as well. So when we're talking about business, I think there is always a lot of noise about, 10K months, 20K months. And while that's all great, I think I always like to come back to the why. For me, it means that I can travel. It means that I can work and travel if I want to. It means I can be a more present partner, daughter, auntie, and one day mother, and currently a dog mum. So it's really about, yes, we want to make these big money, but it's also, I really believe that you can scale while putting life first, and you shouldn't be scaling and burning yourself out. This is what really helped me to develop the scale method. So the 3 pillars of the scale program, and what I help other dietitians to do as well. Number 1 is about mastering your content and messaging. Now, content and messaging, I think, is key. When we have a really good, solid content plan, it makes everything else a lot easier and smoother. Number 2 is launching with ease. And number 3 is scaling in a sustainable way. So looking at your programs, your business model, your offer suite, and how we can actually do that without just adding more one-to-one calls to your calendar. Now, today we are obviously talking more about launching, so we're not going into the other components as much. We are going to touch on content and messaging, but more so in the theme of launching. Now, when we're talking about who this is for and where you're up to, I really think that, launching isn't the first thing you learn, right? If you have no online business and you haven't, set up your Instagram account or set up your services yet, it's not the first thing you'll learn. Where this is really helpful is when you have, you've started your account, you have created some sort of offer, and you are feeling confident with your content and you're ready to really take things to the next level. So potentially you're making, say, 5K months, you have some clients coming through and you're really ready to okay, how do we take this to the next level? This is where it really came into me. In about 9 months into my business is when I started to learn how to launch, and that's when things started to really escalate. Launching is something that we do talk about more inside of Scale. So I've taken a lot of this information directly from module 4, bits and pieces of this. We're not going into all of it today, but this is where a lot of this information is actually coming from. So firstly, we're going to talk about the launch runway. So the launch runway is really about that. It's the prep, it's the lead up period before an official launch. A launch runway is really important to build awareness and interest, to warm up your leads, to address objections early, as well as increasing conversion rates. So some of the biggest, when we're talking about having a proper launch runway, what is possible when we have a proper launch runway is you actually have people interested. So you don't launch and have just quiet DMs. If you launch a waitlist, people actually message you about it. You are able to hit 20K, 30K, 40K months. And you are also have more confidence, more confidence in what you're doing and generally just feeling better. Some really common mistakes I see people making when it comes to launching is launching to a cold audience and not having a warm up period. So this might look like, you're just plodding along doing normal content and then you go, oh, doors are open. You post a couple of stories, you post a couple of posts, and then you get disappointed that no one is actually buying. When you do this, you skip that awareness building and that teasing phase. So we really want to be able to build excitement, build awareness around the problem you're solving, the program itself. A common mistake here is also if you are constantly focusing on just educational content and then on launch week, you're suddenly like, oh, here are the results my clients get and here is how I can help. And people are like, whoa, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just here for free recipes. Like, this is confusing. And they've never heard of your program before. Another common mistake is simply relying on reels and feed posts to sell and not utilizing all the aspects of Instagram. We have stories, we have Instagram lives, we have all these different formats and they are all there for a different reason. And I think they are all there. They're all very important in this process. And the last mistake is just expecting people to know what you're selling. People are not reading every caption, looking at everything you post. I know we live in our content so deeply because you are creating it all the time, but people are not reading everything you post. So don't expect people to just know what you're talking about. So when we're talking about if you feel like you have more of a cold audience, I know for the people that are here live, do you want to put up your hands if you feel like you have a cold audience, or if you're like kind of warm, or if you feel like they're hot? Give me a bit of an indication of how you're feeling at the moment. So signs of a more cold audience is you have low or no DMs about your service. Yep, Vanessa. Low conversion rates. Sales feel slow. It feels like people need a lot of convincing. You maybe get a lot of objections about price. Your income has plateaued. You have a lack of personal connection and lack of people downloading your freebies or registering to your masterclasses. When we're talking about planning a launch, so say you've got a launch, if we're talking about a January launch, if we want to plan a launch runway, there's a few things that we want to take into consideration. Number one is how warm your audience is. So do you have a cold, warm, or hot audience based on the kind of engagement that you're getting? What type of launch you're actually conducting? Does it have a launch event, for example, a masterclass, or a challenge, or an open house event? Any major dates in the year? So often we will plan around, obviously, things like Christmas. A lot of people in the nutrition industry are probably not going to buy a program in December, depending on your niche. But come January, they're all really hot. We also, I think most importantly, plan around your personal schedule. At the end of the day, this is about you and your business. So for example, I always block out my birthday week. I always block out major holidays. I always block out a couple of weeks for Christmas. So go ahead and block those out first, and then we plan launches back from those. Now, depending on how hot or cold your audience is will really depend on how long we need to warm up your audience. So if you have a colder audience, we will need an 8 to 12-week runway. The first 8 weeks in this scenario is really about building your community, establishing trust and authority, growing your email list, and building awareness. This then moves into advertising your launch event. Usually we'll advertise a launch event for 2 weeks, and then open cart and enrolling clients will be 1 to 2 weeks as well. So a colder audience, we basically need a longer period of time to build that trust and connection and authority, and to actually have people aware of what you're selling and how you can help them. If you have, say, more of a warmer audience, what I find the biggest with this is that when you're launching like this, when you have a longer launch runway and you're constantly taking people through all the awareness cycles, is that you'll end up feeling drained. There's a lot of pressure put on this 1 week to do well. And if you go through all of this energy and then you sign 2 people, you're like, what have I just done for 12 weeks? Whereas if we have a hot audience and we reduce that time, there's not as much pressure on that week, and it's not as draining. If you have a warmer audience, we can shorten that runway down to say 6 to 8 weeks. Again, that first block of time, so that first 4 weeks is awareness and teasing. We then go into advertising the launch event and then open cart and enrolling clients. If we have a hot audience, so this is really ultimately the goal, is we want to then reduce this period of time as quickly as possible. If you have a hot audience all year round, we can then go into advertising a launch event and open cart and enroll clients in a much shorter period of time. Now, this doesn't mean you have to launch every 4 weeks, but what it means is that people don't need as much warning because they're already aware of who you are, how you can help, the results that you get. And so that if we do go into a launch, it is much quicker and much easier. The goal I really believe in is having a strong program awareness through consistent content and messaging year round so that you have a hot audience year round that is ready to buy from you when you want and how you need it. So this is an example from one of my clients, Alyssa. She launched her online program Revive last year. She is an established business owner. She is an established dietitian, but was newer to the online space. And she was able to bring over 20K in sales. She just shares a little bit about her experience working with me and going through launching.
I'm not sure if this is just me. There's no audio.
I
No?
was just about to jump on too. Yeah, we can't hear audio.
Okay. That's okay. I'll talk you through it. So she was talking about how important looking at her dream client was, and how going through the different stages of the launch to actually warm up her audience really made a big difference. So something that we work together is looking at your sales pages, looking at your content, and looking at how to actually warm up and speak to your dream client. Now, I know a few of you did come to the Magnetize Your Market Challenge earlier in the year, and we talk about that more often. For those who aren't not familiar with that, I think it is really helpful to really focus in on who your one true dream client is and how do we speak to them through your content, because it'll make a huge difference in making really clear and really effective marketing. There's a few videos today, so that's disappointing that they don't work, but that's okay. So putting this into practice, if you have any questions around launching, around the cold, warm, or hot, then pop them in that chat box. Because I'm not going to actually exit this and mess up the Zoom, we're going to go through all questions at the end, but please pop them all in there as well. All right, so it does bring us into how to actually warm up a cold audience. So we're going to talk more about content now and how this is going to play into that. So when it comes to content, the mistakes, there's usually 3 common scenarios that I see a lot of dietitians and health professionals doing online. And scenario A is you spend time stalking other people's accounts in your niche or other dietitians online, looking for what posts have had the most views, likes, and comments. You assume that they must be doing well, so you replicate their ideas and do something similar, and then get frustrated when it doesn't work for you. As a result, your content looks the same as everyone else's. You're blending in instead of standing out. Scenario B is you're relying on pain point marketing and you post a lot of infographics that give that very poor me vibe because they get high engagement. So I've pulled examples from myself here. So I'm calling myself out. These are older posts. But there is things like this graphic of the iceberg analogy. I think everyone's probably used at some point. Things like the unseen reality of this condition, or signs of burnout, or just in general kind of more negativity stuff that yes, it creates a connection in some way because people feel seen, but it's really important that we don't spin this and completely use too much on pain points, because as a result, you're going to attract in a lot more negativity, and it takes a lot longer to convert someone using pain point marketing than using desire point marketing. So you can, by using pain point marketing, it may take 6 to 12 months to convert someone. Using desire marketing, it'll be a much quicker process. Swapping from pain point marketing to desire point marketing is one of the reasons that I was able to double my monthly revenue in the last 12 months and actually fill my service with clients who want to be there. I no longer feel like I have to convince people of who I am and how I can help people. It attracts the right people in that actually want to be there. Scenario C, a lot of people doing is focusing too much on their metrics. So you know that when you do meal ideas, tips and tricks, that you get amazing engagement. But when you talk about your program, your engagement levels drop. So you stick to that educational content because you don't want to, quote, annoy people. The solution at the end of the day is we really want to be able to step into your space. We want you to be the go-to leader in this space and to show your service is the solution that people are looking for. I want you to be loud and proud about who you are, how you can help, and confident that you are the one that's going to change their life. Your content and your messaging needs to be powerful and to show that authority, build trust, and build connection. So again, calling myself out. So these are examples of educational type content. I will say that educational content, there's nothing wrong with educational content every now and then. We just don't want it to fill 90% of your content. What was working 3 years ago, 2 years ago, was a lot more of this type of content. But there has been a huge shift in the market over the last few years. And especially in this day and age, people need that deeper level of trust to buy into a high ticket service, and educational content just isn't enough to actually build that deeper level of connection. As a result, if you do a lot of this, you are more likely to be attracting people that do have that objection that the price is too high, because they don't actually see that value in what you're offering. It's not that you can't help them, it's that they don't see that value. It lacks that emotional appeal. It doesn't highlight that you are actually different. You don't have that deeper level of connection. It's obviously not showing results, testimonials. There's no scarcity, there's no urgency. It also can lead to information overload. There is so much information online for people in your niche, and if they are constantly just seeing different bits of educational content, they can end up feeling overwhelmed. So instead, when we're looking at content pillars to actually build that trust, authority, and connection, these are the 3 that I teach inside of Scale alongside storytelling content. So expertise content is really how we share your expertise. So how do we show up as the authority that people can trust in? So this is your method. This is your client results. This is showing people that you actually, you know what you're talking about. Passion content is sharing your opinions and your values. This is how you're going to stand out and be different. People want to connect with you as a person and your personal brand, and showing your opinions is actually going to help that, instead of just kind of spitting out the same content as everyone else. And embodiment content is sharing your story. It's sharing your values and how you are, where possible, living the dream life that your clients actually want to lead. So how do we share that as well? So connection content looks a little bit like this. So things like sharing a client story. So how my client Sarah went to an Italian restaurant and shared a meal with her partner. How I was able to go to my best friend's wedding and not end up bloated or skipping meals. And the last one there was more of an opinion piece where I said, this is how I know that you're avoiding foods that you don't need to. And then I showed client testimonials. That one's a bit of passion / expertise as well. Another piece of passion is, if you think about any sort of opinion that you have in your industry, in your niche, and you just want to, you wish you could shake someone and be like, just stop doing this, stop making this mistake, or stop listening to these people. What do you want to say? What do you actually want to tell the world? What do you constantly think oh, I better not share that. I don't want to be too controversial. They're the things that I actually want you to get out there and say, because that's when people are going to start listening. That's when you're going to actually stand out from the crowd. So connection content, I've got a few examples here. We're going to run through this at the end in a little bit more detail. So I've given you some hooks that you can use inside of your content. We're going to use this as the homework task as well. So I'll get you to be able to submit this in the Facebook group. I'll give you feedback on it. We'll be able to make it powerful content. So stay tuned. We'll come back to that. The other important thing that comes with content is I always believe that content should have a purpose, and we always want to show you your authentic voice. Again, this is why we don't want to just be copying what everyone else is doing. If you can get out there and share your voice, your opinions, your beliefs, people are going to connect with that way more than just kind of generic content that everyone else is spitting out. This is some feedback from one of my recent coaching clients who when she came to me, she was feeling really overwhelmed, essentially creating content, and didn't know how to speak her authentic voice. Within a few weeks of having, the support and the content reviews, she felt like she was being so much more intentional with what she was posting and having trust for future sales down the track as well. I love you. So this is a client of mine, Annie, who also went through the process. She was talking about how, again, speaking to the dream client, we literally doubled her sales within 3 months of working together without launching, just through changing her content, by getting more clear on her content. And now she has people, again, small audience, she's about 800 followers. She has people reaching out in her DMs, booking discovery calls purely through this content shift. Now, some questions that often come up when we're talking about these topics. So when we're looking at content pillars, some things you might be asking, and some questions that people submitted in the Facebook page earlier is, I don't share the same medical condition as my dream client. So maybe you work in IBS, you don't have IBS, or whatever it might be. How do you create embodiment content? And number two, I'm not allowed to use testimonials in marketing. How can I share client results? So those in Australia, and I know Canada, and maybe the UK, I think as well, are not allowed to use testimonials in marketing. It sucks. It's frustrating. There are ways around it, depending on different ways we want to approach it. These are both things that we definitely go into more detail inside of Scale to do, to really personalize it to your business, to see what we can do. But if you're kind of wondering, like, what do I do about it? There is definitely strategies around it. So I wouldn't let that hold you back. At the end of the day, I really believe that content and marketing content does the heavy lifting. So if we can have a really strong content plan, this will do 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting. If we have that strong all year round, then we add a launch week in there. The launch week is what really brings people over the line. So you've got these people kind of sitting in the background and they're ready. They're watching what you're doing. They're interested. Then the launch event is what's going to bring them over the line, or the launch week. So when we go into number three, so how to actually plan a successful launch week. When it comes to launching can feel icky. It can feel tiring, and it can feel incredibly disappointing when it flops. However, there is ways to improve it so it doesn't feel like this. A common scenario that I see is when you reach launch week, you see that the engagement starts to drop. So your story views drop, your reel views drop, you feel that pang of frustration and guilt, and you start to question, am I annoying people? Am I being salesy? Am I repeating myself? And should I just stop? Sometimes you may even stop the launch early. This is some screenshots from my content actually this week. So I think something that it's a mindset shift you have to work through to when you see those numbers drop. So for me, these are low numbers because I do have a higher audience on my IBS page. They have dropped from, say, 10,000 views down to 1,000 in launch week. It's very normal to see this drop, and it's something that you need to be able to work through because it's not the end of the world. It doesn't matter. The other thing that can happen, often similar to what Zara was talking about, is you spend so long planning these launch weeks, and if you only make a handful of sales, it can leave you really questioning, was it actually worth this? So having a successful, content strategy and launch plan essentially will make this feel a lot easier and make it a lot more successful, so you don't feel so exhausted and burnt out through the process. Now, if we're talking about a launch week, the three things that we need for a successful launch week. Number one is a launch event. So this may be a workshop, a masterclass, an open house, an Instagram live series, a challenge type thing. So something that we are connecting with your audience on a deeper level. We're showing them what it's like to be inside your world. We are showing them more of your client results and just building that deeper level of trust. We then need a restricted timeline and some urgency. The amount that urgency adds is just incredible. People need often that little bit of push to come over the line, and that is what's really going to help it. So the benefit part of a launch week is that you give them that urgency, and you either give them bonuses, a discount, a timeline. You're showing them what their future could look like, and they have that little bit extra to sign up now instead of keep continuing to put it off. And then we have your content plan as well. Now, with launch events, there's lots of different ways to do it. The most common one, of course, is webinars and masterclasses. They are great. They work really well. Other ways to do it, an open house. An open house it's a pretty direct way of advertising. So you are essentially talking directly about your program. You are inviting past clients to come and speak about their experience. You're meeting people who are really interested. So only your really hot audience would come along to something like this. And then there's a challenge. So I did, for those that there's a couple of people here who came to the Magnetize Your Market Challenge earlier in this year. This is something, again, it's more hands-on. You are providing homework tasks each day. You are connecting with people in a really close proximity. So depending on your goals, your energy levels, and your audience will really depend on the launch event you choose. People tend to have preferences. There's no right or wrong. It just kind of depends on your personal preference. Number 2 is that restricted timeline. So this is where we open cart. So when you open the doors to your program, and you're publicly advertising the program. The shorter the open cart, the more momentum you're going to have, because your audience is going to have a shorter time to make a decision. Launching really leans into buyer psychology, which we'll talk about in a second. Having limited time offers, availability, bonuses, all of these is going to actually help and impact buying habits. So again, depending on what you're actually selling will depend on how long you open cart for. A quick flash sale, for example, Black Friday is a really great option. This is usually a shorter open cart, for example, 4 days. We don't want it to be so short, for example, like 24 hours, in case people don't see it. So usually something like 3 to 4 days can be really helpful for a shorter, quick flash sale. A standard launch is 7 days, maybe 7 to 10 days, and then a longer launch can be 14 days or longer than that, depending. But usually having 7 to 10 days, I find, is a pretty good happy medium, and you can show up with energy in that entire time. We can add that timeline and can add bonuses in there as well. Okay, so we want to lean into buyer psychology. There are 3 main buyer types that I think are important to understand. If you do relate to this one, you jump in the chat and let me know which one you kind of relate to. There are the early adopters, there are logical buyers, and then there's last minute buyers. Understanding this will really help to shape your launch week, and also can help to give more motivation not to stop early in case you do feel like kind of giving up early. Now, the early adopters, these guys are enthusiastic. They often need a little convincing. They love being exclusive. They value being first. They are already very hot by the time you come to a launch event, and they really help to build a momentum in a launch. It's important to, these guys will often purchase on the masterclass or on the webinar. Not everyone is an early adopter, so not everyone's going to buy a masterclass, right? So some people do need more time, and that's normal. That's just different buyer types. So if you ever hold a masterclass and say 2 people buy, and you're like, oh, no one's buying, it's okay, because they're probably in the other buyer types, and that's why we have all the different stages of a launch. The second buyer type is more logical buyers. So these guys need a more analytical approach. They look for value. They want proof of results. They take time to consider the options. They take time to talk to their partner. They take time to do all these things. When we're talking about in launching, these are the people that it's helpful to explain the different components of your program. You do share the features for them. They may want to talk to you in your DMs, have a discovery call, go through that process. Using testimonials and case studies, showing them the clear benefits as it resonates to them, can make it really helpful for them to come over the line, but they really want all of the information. Last minute buyers are the people that just buy at the last minute. They love urgency. They need the scarcity to commit. They often wait to the end of the launch. They may wait to the last hour of the launch, the last 15 minutes of a launch, and then they're like, oh, yeah, I really want to be in. So having deadlines, bonuses, limited spots will help to motivate the last minute buyers. So they have probably been watching throughout the whole time. And then once it gets to the last minute, that's when they come over the line. So here, in terms of launch considerations, we have urgency, we use countdown timers, we use spot countdowns, limited time bonuses, cutoff for applications, creating that FOMO effect. So every time someone does join your program, get on your stories and talk about them, celebrate them, because it creates that FOMO effect, and they sit back and be like, oh, if they're doing it, I'm going to do it. And a strategy for the last 24 hours of your launch is crucial. I always say, do not give up. Do not throw in the towel. You may have been launching for 6 days and you're like, no one has bought, I'm just going to give up. The last 24 hours is what it's for these guys. And that may be 30% of your audience. I have gone from, say, bringing in literally, say, 6 people across a week, and then I've had 4 people join the last 24 hours before. So just remember that that's important. If you're feeling a little bit flat, please don't give up early. So when we're planning out a launch week, if you think about these 3 different buyer types and say, let's just pretend there's 30% of each in your audience. The masterclass is going to help. What's going to help all of them to build that trust, but it's the people that are those quick buyers will probably buy on the spot. The other people will take the time to think about. Then once they've got enough information, they'll come in, and then the last minute guys will come in the last minute. Caroline is a dietitian that I'm working with at the moment. She is a pretty typical story of a lot of people I've met this year. She's been in the online space for a number of years, and particularly in the last 12 months, noticed the marketing shifted and noticed sales drop. She came into work with me about 3 months ago, and we changed her content and launch plan. In her last masterclass, she had 1 sale come in. In her one in September, she had 8 new high ticket clients come in. And I think that this is a really important reminder that people, even with the cost of living, people need you. People need your service. They just need a deeper level of trust and connection to work with you. So this is why content and marketing has changed, because people they just need a little bit more to actually enter into your service. And it's still possible. It's just a bit of a shift in how potentially you used to do things or how you thought about doing things in the past. As the whole kind of theme of today, if you have a powerful content all year round, your audience never goes cold. The launch runway gets shorter, launches feel easier, launches feel less exhausting. So content is king, launching comes second. Now, someone did submit this question, I think it was in the Facebook group. Should you live launch or should you go evergreen? So I think that live launching and evergreen both have their place, and this will really depend on your audience warmth, the goals, your time, your energy levels, everything like that. I think that both are really beneficial. But I think that evergreen, there's an art that comes to both. But if you're not getting sales in between launches, then there's things that we can do and we likely need to improve it. I think that launch live first, then we turn that into evergreen. That helps to test the idea, create a feedback loop. It also is easier to sell on live launches than through an evergreen, and it also adds that urgency that can sometimes be missing through the evergreen model. But it is possible to have a balance of both, and I think ultimately that is the goal. You don't want to necessarily be launching all the time, but there's an art that comes in with it. Zara said, I think I have a cold audience. I rarely get DMs and my income has not increased. How do we advertise? Paid ads. So paid ads, I don't think is something worth bringing in until your content and until you have a hot audience, obviously. Paid ads is just like a reel might get a bit of visibility and bring people to your page. If a paid ad can get visibility and bring people to your page, but if people are not connecting with the content and what's already working there, it's not necessarily going to increase sales. So if we want to increase visibility and increase how many people are coming to your page and your following count, that's typically where reels are going to come in. If you want to increase the warmth of your audience, this is where connection content, using your Instagram stories, using your Instagram lives, that's going to help to build that deeper level of connection and actually warm up your current audience. That makes sense?
Yeah, can I ask something just aligned with that? Because this was actually one of Charlene's recommendation that because I had just started Instagram like from scratch and the previous suggestions were not working. She said to bring in more people prior to the launch, having an ad like on Facebook or Instagram might be a good idea so that people know you exist. And so I don't know how successful that would be. Just like, would that bring in new people? Would that help with growing relevant organic followers? Is it worth the investment or not?
With ads, the risk with ads is that they cost money and they take a lot of testing. So look, they are an option, but I do think that there is a lot of other more effective strategies we can use without going to paid ads. I personally would only recommend paid ads at higher levels when we know things are working and you want to increase volume. But if it feels like nothing's working, then ads are not going to make things work. So if you have a masterclass that's been tested and you can see, okay, when people come into that masterclass, people actually buy, you might do a paid ad into a masterclass, and that funnel could work. But if no one's buying from your masterclass or no one's buying through your funnel, putting an ad into that is not going to actually make that actually improve.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Trish said, I've only launched my business 6 months ago and have a very low following because of Instagram, so definitely have a cold audience. Would this still apply to me? Yes. So I think this is similar for a lot of people, right? Instagram is hard to grow on, especially at the moment. It's, it's a really slow process, and that's okay. And that's why I think it's so much better to focus on warming up the audience you have. Yes, try and bring in new followers at the same time, but don't wait until you have a certain number of followers to then take it seriously, because it'll just take forever. If you have 10 people in your audience and 8 of them are actually people, or 5 of them are people, that's 5 people you can talk to, and then we can work on building your audience in the background. No audio. Yes, sorry about that. Zara said, I'm having a hard time with stories. You feel like you dread that? And then the paid ads question. So stories are something, again, we're going through in scale at the moment. We're doing a 30-day story challenge where I'm giving like exact prompts for people to post. I think that stories, we want to utilize storytelling and always, taking people through that journey rather than, and showing people a little bit behind the scenes, showing people of how you embody the life that people want to lead, and just having that kind of closer connection. What I would encourage you to do is sit down and think about something like a number that you can do consistently. For example, let's say 3 days per week. And then each day have a structure that you can follow. For example, on Monday, you might share a personal story about your weekend, something that you're doing, how that connects to your dream clients. On Wednesday, you share a client story. You share about how their life has changed, how you've helped them. And then on Friday, you share behind the scenes of something you're working on, behind the scenes of working with you, and just have something like that you can just follow every single week. Change the stories every week, but at least then you have got something to follow. If in doubt, talk more about the post that you posted that day and talk about a client example of that, or talk about why this topic is so important or the mistakes people make. At least then you're kind of getting up and showing your face on stories, and people are going to have that connection more than simply just looking at a reel. I see people are saying, I feel like I'm all three. What percentage of people are early buyers? So it will depend on what percentage of your audience are early buyers. Everyone's audience is going to be different. I like to just think about it as 30, like, a third, a third, a third. You're a logical, if you're a logical buyers, that's interesting. I'm definitely an early buyer. I'm a make rash decisions. I go for things. Logical buyer, Trish is jumping off. That's okay. Logical buyer. Okay, amazing. So lots of people are logical buyers. Exactly. So just think about how people are all different, right? And people purchase differently. So we want to be able to present your content and present everything in different ways to suit all the different audiences is kind of the main thing. So when it comes to, we're applying this information to January. So January nutrition clients are the most hot. This is when we can bring in the most sales and then continue that momentum, obviously, for the rest of the year. A lot of people, when it comes to the holidays and Christmas, they feel like they should back off. They should just provide Christmas recipes. They should provide tips for getting through the holidays with X condition. And because nobody really wants to see a dietitian. Some people still want to see you, so don't completely back off. But I really think that the end of November and December are a really great time to plan for January and to actually just work on the back end of stuff. Get your online program built, update your client resources, get everything planned for the next year while things may be a little bit quieter. These are exact numbers from my last 2 launches. So my January launch this year in my nutrition program specifically was 45,000. The year before was 33,000. So it is, all of this planning started in November, December. So if we're now planning ahead to January 2025, I think depending on what you're doing at the moment, I would start to shift your content now. I would start to do more connection content and start to talk to people about what your offer is, how you can help people. Develop a really easy freebie that people can download to grow your email list. December, spend the time planning your launch event, getting it all done so you can just log off for the holidays and not stress about it too much. Get your sales page done or edit it, refine it if you've already got one, and build out your email campaign. And then January, depending on when, it can be first week, it can be third week, it doesn't matter too much, but that's when you then launch when your audience is most hot. Now, as we spoke about today, this is kind of the middle part of the scale method / the first part as well. Inside using this method, I think is where you're able to, yes, grow your income and allow a lot more flexibility. This step here is where we bring in the flexibility. So this is when we look at your offer suites. This is where we are able to add more time to your calendar. So the three components are all really helpful when we're thinking about the long-term goal of scaling your business and having that flexibility. Now, from here, we have two options. You can choose to take this information today, go away and apply it, and risk being in the same place 12 months from now. Or option two, you can say yes to getting support and take the plunge and really get that step-by-step personalized plan into building your online business. If you are ready for option B, you're ready for 5-figure months, you're ready for 20-hour work weeks and sold out launches that make a very real impact. If you're ready to create that life and business that truly works for you, where success not only feels possible, but inevitable, then I would love to invite you into Scale. So Scale is my 6-month mastermind for dietitians. It is all about building your online business to 10K months and beyond while still putting life first. I have 8 spots open for November. This is my last round of the year, and then the next round won't be till January or February next year. So I've got 8 spots open for a start. 1 spot has already been filled by Callie, who's here today. The Scale method is the reason that I have these, have so much time in my calendar. I'm able to travel and earn the income I want while still also helping my clients to get incredible results. That is something that you do not have to, give up. It's about doing this in an ethical way. Inside of Scale, what you'll get an initial intensive with me. This is where I really get to know your business, what is working, what isn't working, and we map out your starting plan. In between, after that, we then have weekly small group coaching calls. So we meet every single week to make sure things are on track, answer your questions, create your content, and make sure that everything is moving smoothly in that direction. In between calls, there is daily messaging support via Slack. So you can send questions in about launching, marketing, content. You can send in things for reviews. You can send me your lead magnets, your masterclass slides, everything like that. So I'm there every single step of the way to make sure that everything is on point. You also get access to your own online portal. The online portal has the video lessons and all the resources you need. In there, we go into more depth about all the topics we've spoken about today. And then my favorite part is the weekly content reviews. So the weekly content reviews is where you literally can submit your content to me every single week. And I'm there to edit and review not only your content, but your captions as well, and give very hands-on feedback. This is one of everyone's favorite part of it, because it is going to quickly elevate your business. So you're no longer guessing what to post. I'm there every single step to actually edit it and review it. This is feedback from Caitlin, who was only 1 month into Scale. She said that she's found the content reviews invaluable. She feels so much more confident in posting and feels like she's building her audience to more potential customers. She also really loves the group calls and enjoys that they're small groups so that you always have the opportunity to ask questions. Now, that is something I really, really believe in, is actually keeping these groups small. That you're not going to be lost in a crowd of 20 people. I'm there to speak to every single person, personalize it, and make that really nice community environment as well. Other results that my current Scale clients are getting, they are putting up prices, they are selling out launches, they're seeing changes in the kinds of DMs. So they're not just getting questions in their DMs now, they're actually attracting potential clients. They are hitting capacity, they are doubling their monthly income. These are the kind of results that are very possible in Scale within 3 months. My clients are seeing results like this. Now, I do have 2 different payment plans available. So if you are sitting there nodding like, yes, I know this is what I need, I know that I'm ready for more, then you can join now. I have 2 different payment options. The payment plan is $1,197 per month, or pay in full is 5,997. That's in Australian dollars. I'll take you through the US as well. As of January, the price of this program is going up to $8,000 or $1,500 per month. By joining this round, you're going to be saving $2,000 from the full price of the program. To convert that into US for my international people, this is closer to $4,000 US or $800 US per month. In the new year, this is going up to $1,000 US per month or closer to $5,300. As promised for coming along to the workshop today, you're also getting a bonus one-to-one intensive. So this is a fast action bonus. If you join the program within the next 48 hours, you're going to be getting an additional one-to-one intensive with me. You can use this at any time throughout the program. Particularly, it is helpful around launching, so we can sit down and map out your launch plan when we come to the January time as well. All right, so we're going to go into Q&A. So I know we already answered some of the questions, but I want you to keep popping your questions in that chat box. Any questions around launching, content and messaging, scale, we'll run through all of those. We kick off next week. So I'm going to be opening up spots to the public as of this afternoon. However, because you came along today, you also get that bonus one-to-one intensive. Before we do finish up, I also want to take you through this homework task. So that you have you get some feedback on what we've learned today. I really want you to go away and put this into practice. I want you to choose one of these hooks. So I'll pop this in the Facebook group, but I want you to choose one of these hooks, either expertise, passion, or embodiment. And I want you to go away and create a piece of content and then submit that hook back in the Facebook page. I'll give you feedback on what you've written and how we can actually improve it as well. This homework task is due by 4 p.m. tomorrow, so that by the time we have that bonus Q&A session, it's all wrapped up. You've got your feedback in the Facebook page as well. I'll put the details there. Everyone that submits the homework task also will go into the draw to win the bonus intensive. You also get an additional kind of entry for that. A reminder for the bonus Q&A call tomorrow, it's at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. This is 5 p.m. if you're in New South Wales or Victoria, 7 p.m. in New Zealand, or 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. if you're in Europe and the UK. If you're in the US or Canada, this one won't be suited to you. I'm so sorry, but you can submit all your questions in the Facebook page. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and come back to the question box. I know a few people had to jump off at the hour time. That's okay. Zara said, just to confirm, there's the one-on-one session with you and the rest of this group. So yes, we start with the one-on-one intensive, and then we have the small group calls every week, and then you get the bonus one-to-one, kind of use it anytime throughout. You're welcome to jump off mute as well for those that are here. Vinu, Grace, Vanessa. Zara, would you be able to tell how fast we can get results based on our current content? I don't like to promise timelines, but I do, like the majority of people that I've worked with so far, we use about 12, we see significant changes in the first 12 weeks. So, the people that come to me with colder audiences, we change their content, we put in a strategy, we put in their launch plan, and within 12 weeks, we see significant improvements. So that is typically the time frame that, I say is like it takes 12 weeks or 3 months to warm up a cold audience and to see results. Given this time of year, I think that ultimately, you join now, we do the January launch, I would expect a significant improvement by then.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Vinny jumped off, that's okay. I think the other questions we already answered. How do we enter the draw for the one-to-one today? So by entering the draw, simply by just coming along, you're going to go into the draw. If you submit the homework task, you'll get another entry as well. Cool. All right, before we do, that's okay. That's okay. Before we wrap up, does anyone else have questions? Grace or Vanessa? You're okay. Yeah, Vanessa. I know we've had our one-to-one. I've been watching your content. You're doing really well.
I have one more question. I put it in the chat. I think it was just like there were so many things after.
Oh, yeah.
Does it matter what platform we offer the webinar we launch it on?
I think that this will come down to budget. I think that there are programs like Webinar Jam and EverWebinar that provide a really great live experience and are really helpful when you do the replay because it makes it feel live for people when it's on Evergreen. Something like Zoom, for example, today, I think is great because you can interact with them and you can start a relationship, and that's a good thing as well. So it really depends on the goal and the audience. If you just want like an interactive workshop, then Zoom is fine. If you want to be able to use that masterclass on replay, then having some sort of platform like EverWebinar will help that, because people can register at any time it feels live. The urgency feels live, which is really important for Evergreen to work. Otherwise, there's no kind of urgency added there. They'll just like wait for the next round.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so we're finishing up early. I did allow 90 minutes in case we had lots of questions, but 60 minutes is perfect anyway. For those that are watching the replay, please feel free to pop your questions in the Facebook page. I'll pop the homework task up and the recording now. We have the bonus Q&A session. That's welcome to anyone that's come today as well. You're welcome to come to the Q&A tomorrow. If you go home, think about what we've spoken about, you've got questions, you want to talk it through, then come along. And my DMs are also open if you have questions. But enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.